tardes, bienvenidos. Muchas gracias por venir al Foro de Candidatos. My name is Maricela Lagosta. I am the chair of the Finance Jam. And I just want to say briefly how excited that I am that we were able to collaborate with several organizations to put this event together. We're trying really hard to get the community, the Latino community, engaged. So before we get started, I just want to go over something very quickly. First of all, I want to say thank you to Solano Ace Coalition. If you can stand up for helping. Where did he? Okay. Yes, Lorena, Centro Latino. Gain Solution, Mildred, thanks. Rosana Damas, RD Diversity. And Green High, Roberto Cortez, and the time is Maricela, Roberto Cortez. Isabel Reyes. And also we have Isabel Reyes from the Eric Reyes Foundation. So they are the organizations, we are the organizations that we are collaborating with the Latino community. We are throughout Vallejo, connecting people, so they can tell you it's not easy, but we're working hard at it, and hopefully that in the future we have this room with a full of Latinos. I'm going to introduce to you the moderator for today, which is Roberto Cortez, and he will explain the process.
Buenas noches, everyone. Thank you for coming. So to the candidates, I will be the moderator. I'll be pretty much the traffic cop here. We are going to have an individual presentation from the candidate. That will be a 3-minute presentation. We're going to start from left to right. Then, after everybody, all the candidates have a chance to introduce themselves, then we're going to move into the question part. And everybody's going to have a chance to be the first one to respond to a question. So we're going to be moving from left to right, and I'll be announcing who's the first one to start answering the question. We start with Erin. Can you present yourself and just tell about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Buenas noches. Mi nombre es Erin Hannigan, and I've been a county supervisor now for 8 years, but I've been serving the city of Vallejo for 13 all total between the city council and this particular seat that I occupy at the moment. I do want to share that, and I said this in the video, that I love the fact that we are having forums from all different communities. I know it's a lot of work for the candidates up here, but I think it's something that is good to have different venues for different communities throughout Vallejo. So I appreciate the partners coming together. I've been serving the city of Vallejo, really my purpose, and that is to connect people to the county. Connect people to county services. I feel in Vallejo that we do not have as much access to resources and services that we need, and so my role has been to do that. And one of the things I've done over the last couple of years is been able to bring in millions of dollars of new money to the county and to the city to address basic needs. Whether it's food insecurity, it's access to different transportation options if you are physically disabled or a senior. It is providing resources, mentoring resources to youth in our community or just coming out of the foster care system or juvenile justice system, as well as providing high school diplomas for folks who happen to miss that opportunity when they are in high school, but as an adult want to finish their high school diploma in partnerships with the county library. I know that one of the concerns that I have for the Latino community is immense. I think we have the wrong president in DC, and the work that we try to do in the county, the work that I try to connect all of you with for Vallejo is, in some ways, I understand that there are some concerns, and so making sure that access to resources, access to services is happens at safe environments. and is also a place where you can feel included. Last week, we just opened up our First Five Center here in Vallejo, and I don't know if you heard about it, but, or even had an opportunity to be there, but both myself and Nina Diaz are members of the commission for the First Five Solano, and that center is a place for everybody who has a child under the age of 6. We have tremendous aspirations for the center in supporting children, ensuring that they are ready to attend school and be successful in school, as well as to help parents strengthen families, help parents improve their job skills, access child support services and all of that. And you'll hear more about what I've been doing in the community.
Yes, good evening. My name is Robert McConnell, and privileged to currently be on the Vallejo City Council, where I'm in my 9th year. In terms of my background, I was born in San Francisco. I grew up in the Sierra Nevadas with a single mother who found a job with the state because in those days women could not find a job that would pay a living wage to support a family life. So I grew up in a remote area, came back to San Francisco where I was born to be a law clerk at the United States Court of Appeals, the chief judge. I didn't graduate from law school. The reason I went to law school was when I was in Vietnam, I was a rifleman in the Mekong Delta. And I kept seeing NCOs pushing enlisted men around saying, that's what the rules and regulations of the Army say. I knew that not to be true because I'd been trained in those. And I realized that back in the world, in the United States, if you knew what the rules and regulations are, people don't push you around. Since I've entered practice, most of my practice has been oriented toward representing small families, individuals, and their problems with government and with businesses. My main practice of late has been in financial services, especially in bankruptcy. And through that process, I have come to realize the great impact that transportation in particular has with people who have to commute out of this city. District 1, which is I'm running for, is uniquely situated. It represents only people in the city of Vallejo. Everything from the middle of Georgia Street north. And when you have to commute over to Marin and Napa County, we're going to add a toll road, which will add another $6 to $8 a day to your commute. There are going to be a lot of people who won't be able to stay in this community. And I found myself during the recession having to advise people that it was actually less expensive to move on to the other side of the toll road than to stay here in Vallejo. The more and more Vallejo becomes financially and economically isolated, which is what the toll roads and the bridges are doing to us, the more we will not grow. So I'm trying to bring growth to this city. I spent 8 years on the Planning Commission. I've been an attorney who advised developers. Originally in Sky Valley was one of my clients, which turned into Hidden Brook. So I understand how transportation and housing fits together. I'm a fairly outspoken person when I'm on stage. I otherwise tend to be quiet. But I know how to communicate in group settings with government because I speak bureaucrat, I speak economics, I speak English, and I speak legalese. I had the privilege of being an intern coordinator with the state of California where I had to find a way to get interns paid for when there was no budget. So one of the things I can do at the Supervisors is to find money that is currently unallocated and bring it to successful projects that this city is going to need if it wants to grow. If we don't, we're going to isolate more and more and become more and more without the ability to go outside our own borders. That's a real problem for us, and I see it as a threat, and I don't want to see that happen on my watch. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Monica Brown. I'm a retired teacher of 39 years. I spent 4 years on Solano Community College, and we brought the early college program to the Fairfield-Sassoon School District. Maybe we can work on that in Vallejo. But I also, this is my first term, so I'm the incumbent. Several things that I worked on is, number one, I was opposed to the cement factory. I worked on that when I was a candidate. I also serve on the Mental Health Advisory Board. We were able to get Laura's Law through, which is an opt-in that we have to as the county, so that if you have a son, daughter, a member in your family that needs help, we can get help now. We'll be unable to do that before. There's a list of criteria. But more than that is that I was able to bring the public charge resolution to the board. And what I have here are updates on the public charge. as well as updates in terms of public charge, in terms of making sure that there's food available. So I'll get that passed out before we leave. The other is that when I got on the board, I found out that the nonprofit Area Agency on Aging was going under, to the extent that we had over 100 seniors qualified for Meals on Wheels and not being fed. So the nonprofit went under with California Department of Aging helping us. We went through and created a joint powers agreement with NAPA, and now every senior is receiving their Meals on Wheels as well as other activities that was not happening. The other is that I sponsored, and we're just waiting for the ordinance, for the home kitchen enterprise, which means that you can create 60 meals a week in your home, earn up to $50,000 a year, so that if you are at home, maybe you are taking care of a parent, maybe you are taking care of children, grandchildren, you have an opportunity to create a job in your kitchen. And I'm looking forward to seeing how that's going to come to fruition. It's a way that we can start growing, because if you have money, you can spend it. And that's what we have to do in order to revitalize the economy, is that when you have money and you spend it, it then means there's more jobs, somebody has to take care of you, like Bambino's opening up. I'm waiting to go get a pizza there. I haven't had a chance yet, but it's on my to-do list. So I would like to continue representing you, and I really would ask for your support when this debate is over, forum over. I'm happy to talk with you. I have office hours in my 3 cities. The 3rd Monday of every month is JFK, but since yesterday was a holiday, it'll be next Monday. You're more than welcome to come and visit me at any time. And now Nina's going to turn that card over that it says Alto.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rochelle Sherlock, and I'm running for County Supervisor District 2. And I'm running actually because my own childhood experiences, I was a product of intergenerational cycles of poverty, dysfunction, and abuse. And so I know how important county services are for family functioning and community functioning. I vowed when I hit my early adulthood that I was going to make a difference in my life, and I have spent my entire life in public service, making the community better, both through my role as initially starting off as a social worker, but then also as a consultant, as a community advocate and volunteer. Now, I think one of the best ways to provide services to the community is actually to go directly to the community and talk to the community. Part of that is when, as a consultant, I do community engagement, and we need to hear the different voices and perspectives of all of the different stakeholders, including the Latino community. And we need to make sure that we go to those populations and to those groups rather than expecting them to come to us. So some of my volunteer work, as an example, is I actually worked with USAID as a pro bono consultant, and I spent a month in Dominican Republic working with, first of all, women greenhouse associations, who were the women who were farming to provide for their families. And we spent time, and they just got water like within a year before that. Many of them didn't even have an 8th grade education, but they were working really hard, and we went there to help build their capacity so that they could continue to grow their product. They knew how to take it to market. They understood the competition. I also worked with the Institute on Natural and Environmental Resources in the Dominican Republic, again, so that they could preserve their natural resources and engage community members in protecting the environment by hiring them as part of their, I don't remember the title, but like foresters. I spent 2 weeks working with microfinance farming communities in Honduras, doing the same thing, strategic planning, capacity building, talking to them, hearing about their hopes and dreams, meeting them where they're at to find out how we can add, address some of the gaps that are there. As an individual, as a volunteer, both in many different ways, but also as a consultant, I work with organizations like when we did the Vallejo community-based transportation plan, and I reached out to groups. I reached out to Mina Diaz to hold a focus group, and it was to make sure there was a translator there. I reached out to other nonprofit providers and made sure that we went to the community where people felt safe and they felt like they had a connection and a relationship. I think if we really want county government and government services to work for us, first of all, we need to make sure we have somebody there that understands county government and knows it inside and out, and I do. And two, understands how to engage the community so that their voice is heard. So we understand what the needs and challenges are, but we also hear from them the solutions that's going to make a difference. That's why I hope you'll vote for me, Rochelle Sherlock.
Thank you. That works.
Testing? Thank you. My name is Kay Patrice Williams. I'm running for County Supervisor, District 2. Thank you to Thomas Yah and all of the partnering organizations. What this is here today is harnessing political power, and I'm excited to be a part of it. Many of you may know me as a fellow board member or fellow community member or an organizer. You may know me as a mom in the community or a small business owner in the community, or you may know me as inspired by our youth. But you might not know some of my background. I have a degree in economics and a law degree as well. I have a background working for IBM, for DoubleClick, which was bought by Google, and I've had a small business here for over 10 years. You may not know that my father was an iron worker and that he was a union man. And because he was a part of a union, they fought for his raises and promotions. You may also not know that I am married to my husband of 20 years, and we have been here for 20 years. Our anniversary just passed. We've raised 2 boys here in Vallejo, and currently we live in Fairfield, but we now own a women's and children's homeless shelter here in Vallejo. What I know from running for this seat for the last 2 years is that we care about exactly the same things. We care about local jobs. We care about competitive salaries. We care about accessible housing. And we care about homelessness. My endorsements include labor and trade, Senator Bill Dodd, Assemblyman Tim Grayson, Assemblyman Jim Frazier, our chairwoman, Erin Hannigan, and 150 community leaders, faith-based leaders, all through elected officials, former elected officials, all throughout Solano County. How does a new candidate garner so many endorsements? It's because I'm collaborative. It's because I have a heart, and I have compassion. I'm smart, and I care about all of us. How does a quiet person like me run for office? To make a change. Ballots are out now. Election day is March 3rd. I ask for your vote and the vote of all your friends and family. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to our candidates. Now that we know them, we're going to move into the questions session. We're going to have 5 questions, and there are cards over there in case that we have enough time at the end. If you want to fill up a card with a question, we may be able to get it to ask them to our candidates that question. So, if we have question number 1.
Good evening. My question is a 2-part question, and it's around homelessness. Homelessness is a chronic problem in our county. There are many reputable efforts and agencies working towards helping those in need. Can you share with us, A, how would you as a county supervisor help bring these agencies together to help maximize our county's budget? And B, how have you supported the efforts to relieve homelessness in our county?
Homelessness is a crisis in our community, as it is in most Bay Area cities and counties, and it's one that I term it as the train had left the station and the money's trying to follow it right now. There are different pots of money that both cities and counties can access, and I'm in agreement that it's a little discombobulated and it could be a more collaborative succinct approach that both cities and counties and nonprofits can partner in. And it does take a dedication of folks to work together from both the county and the city. And the county, we've just hired a person that is going to be doing that work as well, because we do need to maximize the money we have. It's not forever, and it is kind of interesting how the government is putting it in front of both cities and counties and nonprofits to apply for, to spend, etc. So yes, that work can be done much better, and I am a part of that process to create that collaboration. Today, out of the millions of dollars I've received and brought into the county, 600,000 of that money has gone to helping people stay housed. So if you're a single parent, you work a part-time job or a minimum wage job, and you get sick and you can't pay your rent, you can go to Fighting Back Partnership and get that difference so that you can stay housed. And we have served thousands of families and people with that safety net money.
Homelessness is caused by a wide variety of different reasons. And if you don't address the different reasons as to why someone is homeless, you don't even begin to solve the problem. As you know, some of it's caused by economic concerns, others by substance abuse, lack of vocational training, mental illness, being foreclosed on. As a bankruptcy lawyer, I've given the talk to what people are going to have to do when they lose their house. I've given the suicide prevention talk. I've encountered people in the streets. I've housed people in some places that we have without charging them for a while. But if you don't address the underlying problems to begin with, you don't begin to address how to handle it. So you're going to have a different type of housing for each type of need. Some of us are just getting over it. And we're going to need a different type of housing, whether we're ambulatory or not. There has to be housing that will address the specific needs of each cause. Whether you link it to transitional housing, where you can require them to attend classes, or you give permanent housing, such as Section 8, where you cannot. But if you have an underlying problem that has led to homelessness, and as a government agency, you're not addressing that problem, you're not solving the problem. I've walked through the Tenderloin for 25 years, and I see the same type of people there today that I saw way back in the 70s. The faces have changed, but the causes have not. So when government says we're going to solve all homelessness, they have to first figure out how to stop mental abuse, vocational problems, lack of education, lack of finances. And if you don't do that, we're not going to solve homelessness. It's going to be with us for another 20 to 30 years. So when we go to solve homelessness, what I will do is bring people together, because I'm good at that. That's why I was a government intern coordinator with the state personnel board of the state of California. That's what I had to do, is bring different views together and get them to agree.
So homelessness took a long time to get here. It's going to take a long time to go away. Part of it is that we don't receive our full funding from HUD, Housing Urban Development. We haven't received our full funding in over 30 years. The other, and that we need to have that, we need to get the funding back like it used to be. Shelter Inc., which used to be Mission Solano, you don't even get a chance to be in a house, or excuse me, a bed, unless there is a funding source. So we need to have the city step up. There's beds waiting, but we need to have cities to step up. So what Vallejo worked on is the navigation center. Most of you already know that, with North Bay, Kaiser, Sutter. That's going to take a while, but at least people are going to be housed. Is it going to be enough? No. You've heard the different reasons. It's money. You're going to have to work on Gavin Newsom. He says he's going to give us money. We'll see what happens. While the Fighting Back Partnership is the FRC, the Family Resource Center for Vallejo, Benicia and Vallejo, I'm sorry, my bad. Benicia, Fairfield, Rio Vista, Vacaville, all have FRCs, and they need to have the funding continue, because you might lose your job and you just need enough money for 2 months to make sure that you can pay your rent, your mortgage, so that you don't become homeless. I think there's different things that we can do, but we need to work on it. I'm also serving on the Mental Health Advisory Board, and we've been trying to get funding so that we can house our mentally ill, so that they have the wraparound services over on Beck Avenue. So there's lots of things going on, but guys, it took a long time to get here. And we have to work also on having ADUs that we can put in our backyards that might be 300, 400 square feet to make sure that everybody has a warm place to sleep. Thanks.
Okay, so first of all, we need to be really clear on the various roles that both city, county, and state has in terms of addressing homelessness. I will think one of the first steps that we need to do is actually take a look at modifying Proposition 47. And the reason why I want to say modifying Proposition 47 is Proposition 47 actually was intended to not criminalize individuals who have substance abuse issues and drug addictions, and to get them treatment. The unfortunate thing is many of them actually aren't getting treatment because they no longer are required to seek treatment through a diversion program, and many of these individuals are actually on the streets. We need to take a look at state law. The way the county can begin to leverage and work better with the city in addressing some of this is to focus on mental health services. The county is responsible for mental health services and substance abuse treatment. The chronically homeless have high mental health issues and substance abuse addiction issues. So we're really talking about a drug problem and a mental health problem for the chronically homeless. We can increase the number of mental health specialists that are available by drawing down more grants. We need to make sure that the systems of accessing those resources are actually much more efficient, so there's no delay in people receiving those services, because there has been a delay in receiving those services. We need to continue to work on the evidence-based reentry programs. When I brought $6 million in for reentry work, and 60% of the jail-based population actually are homeless. And so this reentry work prevented them from actually going back to the streets by giving them a sober living environment, the substance abuse treatment wraparound services to get back on their feet and become contributing members. As far as how have I contributed to easing homelessness, I brought in $6 million, which addresses the reentry, and the individuals who would have gone from jail onto the streets are not doing that through this program. I'm also the vice president of a Section 8 senior affordable housing complex. I've been there for 5 to 6 years, state of senior poverty work and other profit work.
10 years ago, when I was in law school, I worked for Homelessness Connect in San Francisco. And I did that because there was no problem here. I wanted to make a difference. 10 years later, we're at a crisis situation in Solano County. And what we need is a comprehensive housing plan that includes multi-tier incomes. So that includes shelters for the homeless, that includes low and very low income housing. And by the way, I have a background in that, as well as workforce housing. What we need is transitional housing. We've turned away at least one grant that I know of as a shelter, $1.3 million. And I know it's because of restricted funds, but we need to take those monies and deal with those restricted funds, follow those restricted rules. We also need to think out of the box. We need to be looking at all types of different models. And if we're looking at comprehensive housing plans, we will look at everything. We'll look at tiny homes. We'll look at areas that are ready to go housing. Let's think out of the box and let's draw down those funds to get this work done. It doesn't need to take another 4 years. Why can't we make a big impact right now? Thank you.
As county supervisor, how do you see yourself making mental health services accessible to our Latino?
Thank you. When my mother and father divorced after World War II because of post-traumatic stress, my father, she was a psychiatric nurse. So the state of California offered her a paying job, which she took. We didn't have daycare in those days. So I went to the mental hospital every afternoon, and I learned the different types of mental illness. At that time, we couldn't treat drug people because we didn't know how to diagnose the drugs. It's the same problem with people who have language impairments. We have to have the capacity to have translators. Now we have the availability of the internet. When I go to court, the hearings can be conducted in any language that is needed by simply doing a phone conference. The mental health providers in Solano County can plug into that same system. It's not expensive, it's very effective, and it works. I've been in court where we've had translators in the back of the witnesses translating in their ear and translating. Believe me, the telephonic conference is much more effective and it's a lot less expensive. So if the county cares to implement that program, it's already an established working program in the federal courts. All we have to do is plug into it. I am a huge believer in mental health because I have seen the impact that it's made on people's lives. I know that it's treatable. Basically, most of us are chemical plants, and if you have the right balance of what's in your body, a lot of the mental illness goes away. Some of it can be addressed through long-term therapy and care, but a lot of it has to do with nutrition. We combine the ability to have translators over the internet, the federal courts have done with nutritional treatment, and we have skilled, properly paid mental health providers, which the county does not. We can address this problem and get it done.
Several, but violence, we need to work on violence. I understand the lack of language, I get that. But there's got to be some way that we work with folks and say that hitting people, not taking care of people, all of that is wrong. And that to me is part of education. But for folks that have mental illness, you need to have an assessment plan. And you need to be able to say to some folks, some people are just going to have to be taken care of every day. They just are. And so I think we need to look at what is it that we can do, but part of it is also a contract. I know that with SEIU that people are given extra money because they have special services, but we need to reach out. So it's comprehensive in so many ways, but part of it is violence. We need to address that. We need to talk with everybody and say that that is wrong. We also need to work on, but to be honest with you, if you know a foreign language, there are other places you can go and get paid more money. I understand, and that's a very good idea that you have over here, Robert. I like that idea, using technology. But it kind of all goes together, and so the question is, what do we want to work on first? And making sure that there are services so that people can at least go and get some sort of help and then move from there. But you're going to have an assessment done, and then you're going to have somebody who's going to follow up to make sure people take their medication, to make sure people have a safe place to live. So it's very comprehensive, and it's not going to happen overnight.
First of all, let me say, there is never, ever, under any circumstances, that anybody should be subjected to violence in their own community or here in our country, ever. And the trauma that inflicts on individuals is a trauma that needs to, first of all, be recognized that it's not their fault. It needs to be understood for the long and lasting ramifications that it actually has on an individual. We need to recognize that with the current administration, national president of our United States, that many individuals in our country now will not even come up and report to law enforcement that they're experiencing violence in their communities for fear that they will be deported or a family member will be deported. This is not okay. The Solano Commission for Women and Girls, I'm the chair of that commission, and we're doing a status report. And the city of Vacaville, they have a first department, and that's it's an first family investigative response unit, and there are a number of reports of domestic violence and violence against women and children, particularly from the Latino community, has plummeted. It dropped. It's not okay. So how do we begin to address that? I just want you to know that this is a part that I'm really passionate about. I think one of the things we need to do is we need to go to trusted insiders. And when I say a trusted insider, I mean people that the Latino community already is connected to and knows. You know, we have Mina Diaz here, as we have Isabel, we have others here that people are already having conversations with. We need to allow them to tell us how we can utilize them, support them, make sure that they're resourced so that we can reach out to the Latino community where they feel safe. I was a consultant, I am a consultant, but I used to do culturally linguistically appropriate services for nonprofit and county government. It was one of the areas we focused on. It was simple things from what are the images that we see, to the languages that we see, and to the symbols.
I'm always startled when we're talking about immigrant services, African American services, Hispanic services, other services, and we're not directly saying, why aren't we hiring those organizations that are already there? I'm startled by it. I just read a post about the census and how do we access hard to reach communities. Isn't it obvious? It's the same way that we reach these services, we tackle these services that aren't being utilized by the immigrant communities. We go inside the communities and we utilize the organizations that are there. Why are there contracts going out to these organizations that are already there doing the great work? And it's not just mental health services, it's small businesses, it's inequity in health services, it's educations for our youth, it's jobs. So it's not just mental illness, but it's really addressing those barriers, and there's no way to do it unless you're in the community, working with the community that you're trying to serve. Thanks.
Thank you.
I think the question, and I don't know your name in the old lady sweatshirt, I think your question is really pertinent. I mean, anybody who comes to our community, it seems to me, particularly from the south of the border, is coming from a place of trauma. And if they didn't have trauma where they live, they had trauma on their journey. And then once they cross the border, they have trauma here, because we are not nice to people coming from the south of our border. And I'm sorry about that. It's not something I subscribe to. But recognizing people come into our communities from a place of adverse experiences. And we as a culture are really improving our ability to understand adverse experiences. We talk about it in terms of ACEs, the Adverse Childhood Experiences, and an ACEs score. And we look at, you know, what are, well, it's 10, but I really think it's probably more like 20 or 25 or more than that, different points in your life that you have been confronted with trauma and how you overcome that kind of trauma. Really, it's about coming to a place like Solano County where we hire to be culturally sensitive to the folks that we help. So ensuring that we have people at all levels of government who can speak the same language. I think it's particularly important when we're at our customer-facing jobs, whether it's at our mental health services, employment and eligibility services, child support services, any of those interactions, our medical care, to ensuring that the first person you see, if you speak Spanish and they don't, that we get the Spanish-speaking person to come and talk to you. Because I think you need to feel like you are a part of the fabric of the community. And the only way we do that is by being culturally sensitive and acknowledging that you didn't have an easy journey, and we need to make it easier for you from this point forward.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I know how that happens.
Good evening, Roxana Damas here. Latinas are a major part of this community, but lack representation at all levels of leadership. What is your plan to raise the visibility and economic leadership of Latinas for the long term in Solano County?
One of the things that I've tried to do as a board of supervisors is to try to have fresh people. In other words, you didn't owe me anything, so I tried to make sure that I have a diverse group at all of my areas. In my staff, I have Stephen Hallett and I have Liat, and I never can get Liat's last name right. And so I try to have a diverse group. I'm very cognizant of that, especially as a teacher. And so, because it's very important that when someone is looking at you, they're looking at somebody that looks like you. So I understand all of that. So that's the best I can do in terms of, we don't hire. The only person that I'm responsible for in terms of hiring is the CAO. So everything else, but one of the things that we can do is that we can reach out into our high schools, into our colleges, and say that Solano County would like you to come and work for us. What is it that we can do to help you on that journey? And so that might not answer the question, but I am very aware of making sure that, and also to be honest with you too, I have more women that are working on my commissions than men. Not to be rude to the men, guys, they know it's our turn. So just sharing with you. Anyway, so thank you.
Could you repeat the second half of that question? 'Cause
What is your plan to raise the visibility and economic leadership of Latinas for the long term in Solano County?
Okay, and economic leadership. Okay, great. Well, I think in general, women in general, we're seeing a real rise for women, period, right? It's been a long time coming. As a co-founder and chair of the Solano Commission for Women and Girls, one of the things that we're focused on, first of all, was at the beginning when we had a choice of who some of those members were, advocating to make sure that we had a very diverse representation on that group. So we are like probably the most diverse advisory board, period, to the Solano County Board of Supervisors, probably the most diverse advisory board to any city or commission as a result of that. It's one of our efforts, it's a tool that I brought to the board as a consultant. When you look at composition, it's one of the things that you take a look for and can be around that diversity, through the diversity lens. One of the things that we're doing at the Solano Commission for Women and Girls, along with the status report, we're actually taking a look at who are the leaders in Solano County and what is their background. So I know we have a couple of really prominent leaders that are Latina, right? We have Dr. Esposito Noy, we have Lizette Estrella Henderson, who's the Solano County Office of Education educator. And what we want to do is begin to elevate and celebrate them so we see them in the forefront, we recognize them for who they are. Right now, it's we'll be talking about this at our Thursday meeting, but the Solano Commission for Women and Girls, and what we want to do is we're doing a focus on girls in particular, but again, looking at it not just through the diversity lens, but also through who we are as young women. That makes us strong. That means that we can be a business owner. That means that we can be a leader. That means that we can be a construction worker or tackle anything that we want to tackle, but to start very young in doing that. I think that that's just part of what we have to do, and so celebrate and support the Hispanic Chamber and all the efforts of the community leaders that we have here. I mean, we have some outstanding women community leaders right here in this room, and I would say that we just need to continue to do that, and then also in the place where it's appropriate that they are hired. Again, I think Supervisor Brown did say that the County Board of Supervisors doesn't necessarily have the, I'm sorry, thank you.
When I walk into a room and I see that I am the only person of color there, I take notice immediately and make a course correction. We need to be pulled in to important meetings. How many of us have been to meetings and we're like, why are we the only one there? Why are we special to this information? That's not okay anymore. We need to be pulled in and around community issues, problems that are going into the community. We should be having task force where all of our voices are a part of the conversation as to what is happening and possible solutions. And that also lifts barriers. We'll understand what those barriers and we'll put solutions in place. The reason why I know many of you, because I'm not new to all of our communities. I go everywhere and I make sure that I echo out everything that is happening that I know. There's no more leadership in a vacuum. That can't happen anymore. Needs all of us. Also, I am really honored to have a small business, and the anchor of my small business is diversity and inclusion, surrounding small business owners. What I do for a living is DBE, let me not do acronyms, diverse business enterprises, minority business enterprises, women enterprises. So all of these small business owners get certified and then get on a pathway to government procurement, to job freedom, to small business growth, so that we can grow our businesses and grow legacy businesses. That's what I do. So that's why diversity and inclusion is not something that we just talk about. We need to do it. We need to walk the walk.
I appreciate the focus on Latinas because I think we're very fortunate in Vallejo that we have some really strong Latina leadership, and it was mentioned here in the room. So ladies, thank you so much. But really, it's supporting women who are stepping out and into the community and helping them be successful in their role, I think is really important. I understand that, I think the question of how many times are you at a meeting and you're the only one, well, you know, a white girl, but I can't tell you how many times I'm in a meeting and it's just white men and me. And it's kind of, it's appalling to me actually when you look around the room and it's like, okay, where is the representation? How do we look like the community we actually represent? I've been very fortunate to support Ms. Ruiz on the Solano Commission for Women and Girls, as well as Alma Hernandez. She is just announced her city council run for the city of Suisun. And obviously Lizette Australia Henderson, I supported her in her run, and many others. I did appoint Manny Angel as an appointee to the Fair Board, again, to bring that voice to a different place in our community, that it's really important. So, I mean, I'm available to help. I mean, I think that Latinas who are interested in doing things in the community, I think should also reach out as well. And my door is open. So come on down, let's have a conversation. I think it's important to feel that you are welcome into the realms of leadership, whether it be in business or politics. We need everybody represented at both levels. If we're going to be successful as an economy here in Vallejo, our economy needs to represent the community we are, and that includes Latinos.
Well, there's 1 in 5 people up here who's in minority positions. I guess I better defend myself. But instead, let me point out two occurrences where I've seen what you're talking about, bringing forth leaders to develop. Once was a very small church where we were trying to grow membership. We had a discussion with the rector about how we did it, and I said, well, we have lots of programs. She said, no, you find out what they're interested in, and then you offer them the program and you make them the leader. So find out what the community is interested in. And one of the things I would propose is to have a community sounding group from every faction I can get my hands on and think of, people including those I might not otherwise agree with, simply because they're going to teach me how to think differently than I would otherwise do. The other example of leadership was the United States Army. I was bundled up with people from all across the United States, from California, set to New Jersey, and then to Fort Benning, Georgia, where I met people I would never have encountered in my entire life. And the Army is very good at developing minority leadership from all communities. And what they do is they recognize talent. The city of Vallejo has recently adopted district elections, and district elections will give the opportunity to small groups to bring forth leadership. The people who you will see in those small communities who start articulating what they think their community needs are the ones who are going to come to the forefront and eventually take over the position of government, whether it's in the city, the county, the state, the federal government. But you will grow leaders by giving them opportunities and developing what their interests are, rather than what the government and the people who are in those chairs think should be done.
Next question.
Hi, guys. Thank you guys for being here. So as many as you know, I'm a mother who lost her son to gun violence in February 2016. My boy was 18 years old, a 4.0 grade point average student, high school student. So my question is, what programs do you, the county supervisor, will bring to Vallejo for the curbing crime and delinquency among the at-risk youth?
Sure.
I think one of the things that we have to do to curb violence and crime with at-risk youth is, first of all, make sure that there's opportunity. As somebody who's experienced intergenerational cycles of poverty and abuse and dysfunction, I understand how those previous generations actually sometimes set the trajectory of your life. It's all you know. And so some of this is something that's going to take, I think, a little time to unwind. So if all you know is violence, if you've never been exposed to opportunities for an education, opportunities for collaboration, opportunities to make a good living wage, if you've never had these opportunities to enjoy life or explore your full capabilities and talents, and all you know is that, hey, it's kind of kill or be killed, or that street beat or be beaten, then it's hard to change that. This does come back to trauma and how trauma drives aggression in our society. So there's a couple of things that I think that we can do. One is we need to make sure that we're targeting supporting programs like the program that you actually have, Isabel, we're going ahead and making sure that kids have opportunities to education and to just different kind of career technical opportunities as well. I think we also need to make sure that their parents are employed. We need to do a better job making sure that they're in environments that are not ridden with violence and hostility so that they can begin to feel safe. So when you're exposed to trauma, what happens is you're almost always on a constant fight or flight alert almost all the time. And then it takes very little to trigger. It becomes very volatile very quickly. I've lived in some of those communities in my childhood. I've lived in places where it was kind of a beat or be beaten situation. And I would say that the only thing that's going to change that is if we change the community as a whole. So part of that is to begin to make sure that there's job opportunities, to make sure that we start early with First Five and those kind of early education opportunities.
This question is really about youth hopelessness and how do we get in front of that. When you're hopeless, that's where you have gun violence, that's where you have crimes, that's where we have at-risk youth. So how do we get in front of it? And the only way that I know to do it and how I have done it is really getting involved in youth programs. So it's not just money, putting money into youth programs and supporting it that way, but it's really getting involved, us as adults, letting youth see us, touch us, talk to us, know that they have adults out there that care. I do that through a number of programs, but what's the most interesting thing about it is I got involved with youth thinking, oh, I would have one or two youth that I mentored, not knowing that I would have 20, 30 of them that I mentor. I'm accessible to them. When they have the smallest questions, I am there. And they feel my presence. They can tell. They can tell when they have people around them that care about them. But we need to do that on a wide scale. And I know we can. It's one of those things, it's one of those dream projects that once I get this office, I was like, there's a way to do this and make it really, really big so that we're all touching all of these youth by the hundreds, maybe by the thousands.
I think this is really a serious issue in our community. We have kind of talk about it in terms of our public school system. For many years, not of late, but for many years, we're graduating 65–70% of the kids that attended school out of high school. So you end up with folks who live in situations where they don't have a high school diploma, they have to resort to maybe some illegal crime, or definitely underutilized or underpaid or underskilled jobs, and that always put them at risk. And then you have generations of that on top of it. So it is going to take a long time to unravel what happens in communities, that people that live in poverty. Not saying that that's the only place that you find violence, but I think that certainly is a place that it does occur. What was mentioned was the First Five Center. And this is one of those pieces in the toolbox to help change the makeup of our community. The First Five Center was created to provide a place for parents and children that are under the age of 6 to learn how to play, to learn about nutrition, to learn about early childhood education, to learn about development, and to talk and to read and to sing to our kids so they're prepared for school when they become of age. The other piece to the First Five Center is to strengthen families who are living in trauma, families that need supports that they may not have another resource or another way to get to those supports. So in the center, we're going to identify those situations with families, and we're going to bring resources into them and hopefully prevent a violent act from happening far into the future. I also think wellness centers that are occurring in our schools is a big deal, as well as our probation department is operating under a trauma-informed care and ensuring that juveniles in our communities who make mistakes, those are not mistakes that hang with them for the rest of their life, but we work to help them make different decisions in the future.
My apologies and regrets for your loss. My bookkeeper had her 2 sons murdered in Fairfield 11 years ago. She has never recovered. I am not a stranger to violence. I have been taught how to use violence. And part of that is a desensitizing procedure. Army is very good at what they do. If you are going to address the issue of violence, you have to recognize that a lot of it comes from desensitization. You are taught to be desensitive either through your economic circumstances, your father's input, your reaction to harassment. There's a lot of reasons that lead to it. A lot of it, of course, is mental illness again, but in a slightly different format. By having the counseling that can be provided to this over time, you can overcome this reaction to violence. In the 1960s, Stokely Carmichael said, violence is as American as apple pie. And he's not kidding. Because we tend to be a violent country. You're raised in the West, as I was. You learn how to use weapons when you're a child. And you learn how people react to different settings. You see this. That pattern has to be broken. It can be broken through education. It can be broken through counseling. It can be broken through these programs that we're all doing. But it requires somebody who recognizes what is occurring in a day-to-day life of a child and even as an adult. Because people sometimes have these latent characteristics that are okay until something happens and then they snap. So if we don't provide mental, emotional counseling for this, it's going to continue.
Kids need to feel safe. One of the things that I noticed in the 39 years that I taught school is that we don't have summer school like it used to be. Summer school was 6 weeks. You went, had breakfast. Okay, I'm a math teacher, so yes, we did math. But we also did other things. We had fun activities, that like on Fridays we would go on field trips. You also had lunch. So by the time you got home, it was maybe 2:30, and you didn't have a whole lot of time, and you felt comfortable and safe. We also need to bring counselors back. So all of these things happen, guys, because of Prop 13. We lost a lot of stuff, and we're going to have to work and see to bring it back. But you have to feel safe. Schools are usually where it's safe. We need to have middle school and high school where we have the trades, where we used to have industrial arts, where we used to do fashion. We used to have fashion shows, and we would do that on Friday night. The other is during the summer, you need to have Friday night basketball, Saturday night basketball that goes till 2 or 3 in the morning. I know it happens already because Brandy, who is our deputy sheriff, tells me about what she does on Friday night. But we also need, but there's other sports too. Okay, I coach soccer. There's different things that we can do. We keep our kids engaged. But you can't complain about it and not be a mentor and help somebody. It is easy to CH. Don't translate that, whoever's doing that. I'm hearing you over here. It's easy to complain. It's harder to get involved and do something. There are grants out there that we can work on, but it's not going to be overnight. I'm also going to keep pushing the early college program because I truly believe that that would be a great program for Vallejo. We have it in the Fairfield-Sassoon School District. We also have it in Vacaville. We are graduating kids at 18 with an AA degree, and then they're moving forward with their high school diploma. So there's different activities out there. We just need to work on it.
This would be our last question. So,
Good evening, candidates. Thank you for being here. My question is this for all of you. Okay, small business represent a very important economic base in the Solano County. It is important to foster, promote, retain, and provide access to government contracts. As a county supervisor, did you see the importance of forming a small business commission to attend the needs of small business in our county?
Been working with small business owners all throughout Solano County and the Bay Area. There is a need for sure for a small business commission, and it needs to be diverse, and it needs to address the barriers to getting contracts. And let's start right here in Solano County. Here in Solano County, there's a large spend, and I know many of you that have not received services contracts. we're qualified, we're capable, we're ready to ramp up services, but those contracts don't go to us. They go to Sacramento. Companies that are based out of Sacramento. They go to companies that are based out of San Francisco, and that's a problem. It's easy to fix. The way to fix it is to really be able to get their list of spends, their forecasted spends every year, and getting that forecasted spends, then looking at the base of businesses and seeing who can go together as a joint contractor and go together to get those contracts, or you'll look at those contracts that are coming up and you'll say, you know what, I need to build in capacity, or I need to build an employee base, and then being ready by the time that contract, that RFP comes up. So thank you for that question. Small businesses mean a lot to me, and we are the economic base. We're who hires other residences, and we really move this county forward.
The answer is yes. I think a small business commission would be very helpful for people to understand how they can connect with county resources in terms of where it is that we are going to be putting out for contracts. So I think that's wonderful. Small businesses are the largest employer in our country, and I think we fail to realize that. We think it's Walmart's and Costco's, and no, it's actually Dos de Oros and, Tacos Jalisco. I mean, those are the small businesses in our community that are employing the most people, and they need support. They need us to visit them. They need us to talk about them as being the place to go, and so they can continue to employ the most people as possible, because that is, again, the biggest employer. So I support a commission, whatever we're going to call it, but I think there's an avenue, an opportunity there to gather like-minded businesses or who are interested in applying for those contracts and showing them a path forward to being able to do that. Why not?
My wife and I have built 3 businesses here in Solano County. We've successfully sold 1. We're still operating 2. As a financial services lawyer, for the last several decades, I have put businesses together and I have taken them apart. And one of the reasons we often wind up putting a business out of existence is a lack of knowledge and a lack of capitalization. When people come to me, I find they often do not have the proper education. They do not have the financial skills. They've never been taught it. They don't have the access to capital. They don't understand personnel procedures. So what I'm proposing that the commission do is form a business incubator. You get a building, it can be donated or given to the county at a reduced rate, so there's a tax write-off. You bring in teachers from community college, from the private sector, who will teach you how to operate a business. Everything from personnel to financing to legal to marketing. And then for a couple of years you will continue to operate your business at that incubator, gradually increasing your rent. By the time you're through a 2 to 3 to 4 year period, you are ready to go back out of the community and start your business by incubating, because you've come through that incubator process, and by then you're either going to survive or you're going to fail. 4 out of 5 businesses fail in 5 years. That's the reality in the United States. And it's usually because of a lack of education, a lack of access to capital, a lack of knowing what to do and how to do it. You hire your brains in business. If you can hire your brains, or better yet, have it provided to you through a county undertaking, your opportunity and your percentage of succeeding in the business will be substantially higher.
Many times, why are our contracts going outside the county? In fact, my staff and I, we had an evening meeting and brought forth everybody that wanted to come and have a conversation. And many of us, what they told us was that the threshold of $250,000, and then after that they have to do more paperwork, was too low. So that, number one, needs to be changed to at least $500,000. The other is that when we were putting forward the home kitchen enterprise, we worked with the Small Business Development Corporation, and they're going to help us once we finally get this ordinance of doing the paperwork, of helping folks to get the right certification and also to do the publicity, because it doesn't do us any good to have a business if you don't have any publicity. So I have no problem with putting it together, but I want to let you know I have tried. And if you go back because you're insomniac, you know, have insomniac night or something, go look at some of the board meetings and you will see that I keep asking that. And what the board now does, the powers that be, at least they'll show me, right, that, you know, these are the people that apply, but a lot of times we don't even get local businesses to apply. So it needs to be, I agree, let's work on it, but I just want to let you know that I have tried, but once we get this home kitchen enterprise going, and then we have some sort of a model to start, because most small businesses only have, what, 3 or 4 people at the most working for them, and that's, again, that's how you grow the economy. So, and then of course I love to eat. I work very hard to maintain this body, so whatever it is you want to produce, go for it.
I love the idea, Mario, of a small business commission. I am a small business owner. I have been a small business owner since, I think, 1998. I worked my business part-time for a long time under Rochelle Sherlock Consulting. I also held a job both at a nonprofit and then with both Tuolumne County and then Solano County. And then I went full-time in 2007. And going as a small business, it's a really big leap because there's a lot of risks and there's a lot of costs, a lot of overhead. And I think sometimes some of the California regulations makes it particularly difficult for small businesses to thrive. There's a lot of expectations for us. But I do contract with the county. I've contracted with some cities, and I'm going to tell you that one of the biggest barriers that I see as somebody who does contract is the fact that there's a requirement for you to maintain a certain insurance level that is so outrageous that in some cases I've looked at consulting opportunities and I'm like, wow, I'm going to spend 1/10 of that on the insurance coverage just to do the work with the county. Now, for example, car insurance. I have to carry $2 million in car insurance coverage per person per occurrence, but I don't transport anybody. I actually largely work from home. I go to meetings and I facilitate meetings, but there's nobody that's in the car with me, but I still have to pay it. It's an exorbitant amount of money. So I think one of the things that we can do is begin through the Small Business Commission, because I'm going to work with you on it, is to identify what are some of the barriers to contracting with government, as well as identifying a small business services center. So I was doing consulting work. I've donated $100,000 in pro bono consulting to nonprofit community groups and some small businesses. One of the things that we need is we need a business services organization that can provide HR, IT, legal, and those kinds of payroll functions, so that people can pursue their passions and what they're really talented at and be wildly successful.
I would like to thank you on behalf of Ms. Yai and the organizations who put this together, our candidates, for taking the time to come here.